If you haven't seen Gravity, I'm sure you've heard about it from a friend who has. Gravity is one of those films that as a viewer, I was very entertained, but as a filmmaker and critic, my mind was blown in terms of what we can now do with the youngest of the arts. Cinema is almost 130 years old, so it's still a young buck in comparison to music, art, theater, etc., but it is one of the only arts that can combine all art to make one masterpiece. Alfonso Cuarón's Gravity is that breathtaking cinematic masterpiece worthy of all the positive adjectives that you can use in a film review. It only takes a minute into the 13-minute opening shot, one long take without cutting, to realize that you're watching something fresh, beautiful, and that promises to be a thrill ride. In fact, I don't remember the last time I held my breath, pumped invisible brakes, and almost talked to the screen in the opening scene. The key to the film is its simplicity and concept. Ryan Stone, played by Sandra Bullock, is a medical engineer working alongside veteran astronaut Matt Kowalski, played by George Clooney. What starts out as a routine day in space turns bad as a Russian satellite explodes in space. The film does a great job of explaining the science of space, but let's just say the satellite explosion turns into deadly 200-mile-per-hour shrapnel headed toward our heroes. From there, the film is about survival. Cuarón's camera direction is an awe-inspiring ballet, floating, dodging, and capturing events as they unfold. His pacing is reminiscent of Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey, while his framing captures the beautiful aesthetics of space and its equally horrific silence. This is Oscar-worthy directing. Gravity is guaranteed to entertain now and be studied in film classes for years to come. I'm usually not a fan of 3D, but it's used well in this film with objects coming at you, not all the time. It feels as though you're right there with the characters. It's a must-see in theaters in order to get a feel for space's magnitude. In my opinion, this is the best picture this year, and will be talked about in the films of the decade and best space films lists. I give it an A+. You can check out the full review on picturelockshow.com. Gravity in theaters now. Now, this is episode 8 of Picture Lock, and it's been an awesome ride. Over the course of the season, I've talked with film critics, local filmmakers, festival directors, and film enthusiasts. I can never say never, but this may be the season finale for TV broadcasts of Picture Lock until we ramp up again in 2014. So I thought it only fitting that I bring on two fellow Washington, D.C. Area Film Critics Association members, Hamilton Whitney and Jason Fraley, to talk about our top 5 most anticipated and least anticipated films of this fall. This will no doubt be a passionate conversation. All ahead on Picture Lock. Today in the studio with me, I have not one, but 2 fellow Washington, D.C. Area Film Critics Association members. First, the founder of FilmHamster.com, Mr. Hamilton Whitney. Hamilton, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Last but not least, he helped me during the season premiere, so it's only fitting he came back on for the finale. WTOP film critic and founder of the Film Spectrum, Mr. Jason Fraley. Jason, thanks for coming back on.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
All right, so I'm excited to geek out with you guys. We've got to limit this to 15 minutes. It's going to be hard to do, but Gravity, wow. What makes Gravity great?
Well, I've been one of those that's kind of slow to come around to 3D, as I think a lot of people were for a while. You know, it seemed the big knock on it was that it was it was more of a gimmicky thing, right, where a couple things will pop out at you, but is it really worth spending the extra money to go see it? And with I've slowly been coming around on it. I mean, you had Cameron's Avatar, you had Scorsese doing Hugo. And you had obviously Ang Lee last year winning Best Director for Life of Pi, the first time for a 3D movie. So that kind of legitimized it a little to me, and I said, okay, maybe we need to take a look at this, and maybe it could be part of the film's future.
Right.
And so now I go into the theater with Alfonso Cuarón, who I loved in Y Tu Mama Tambien and in Children of Men, right? And all of a sudden, I get this movie where I'm transported into outer space. It felt like I was actually watching it happen. And for the first time, to me anyway, one of the first times where 3D was actually used to hit the emotional core of the movie. You know, there's
wait one second.
Yeah, go ahead.
We have to say spoiler alert, because guess what, people? There's gonna be spoilers, because there's no way you can talk about Gravity and just not spoil it. By the time this airs, it should have already been out and you should have seen it. Okay, go. Sorry.
Thanks, Kevin. No, so I mean, there are those kind of more gimmicky moments where, you know, a screw pops off and starts floating towards the screen and they have to grab it. Okay, that's fine, whatever. But there was a scene where Sandra Bullock is pretty much given up on life and is about ready to pack it in.
Right.
After an hour or so of trying to survive here. And a tear comes down her cheek, and all of a sudden, there's no gravity. The tear rolls off and starts coming towards us in the screen. And to me, that was one of those times where, okay, this is no longer a gimmick. Now 3D is actually being used to hit the emotional, you know, gravity of the story.
Right, no pun intended.
Actually not, yeah. So yeah, and if you think about another movie, if it was set on Earth, you know, if Bullock starts crying and the tear came at us, it would seem gimmicky.
Right.
But the fact that we're in space, I feel like it's in a unique opportunity that I don't know if that actual move can ever be repeated, and that someone might find a way. But
right,
so
you'd have to have like that low angle or looking up, you know.
Exactly. Well, I mean, get some Breaking Bad and put the camera like in the coffee mug, something crazy.
Yeah.
But but in terms of, you know, straight looking at the character, I don't know how that's going to be, you know, repeated. So I really, as you said, geeked out over stuff like that.
Yeah.
And just that opening single take you're talking about, it just goes on, and you're trying to look and see where the, you know, Hitchcock rope wipes are, the hidden wipes, you know.
Yeah.
I think here it's where it you know, the camera goes up towards the planet, and so maybe digitally CGI they kept it going and make it look seamless. But I was kind of in awe of that, of how that film opened and just kept me hyperventilating in those POV shots the whole way.
Incredible, right? Hamilton, what do you think?
Well, to go off of you're talking about the long shot. I mean, that was one of the things that I loved about Children of Men. That movie I've seen a number of times, and it just got better every time. I'd noticed more things, and his work with the long takes is just amazing, and that it only gets better with Gravity.
Right.
That opening scene really sets the tone for the whole movie. It's just an expansive experience. Is I think the best way to put it. I liked the movie. There were actually some things I didn't like about it as far as storytelling, but the amazing visuals and the way that he told the story more than made up for it. It still is an astounding film.
I definitely want to hit what you didn't like about it, but let's talk about Cuarón as just the director. To me, obviously he directed and he wrote it with his son. But to me, as a director, if you gave me a script and said, "Hey, this is going to be in space," I don't know if I could really, like, the way that he just uses the camera floats, and then at the same time the choreography with any of the astronauts floating or they're spinning. And as Jason kind of talked about, there's actually in that opening sequence a time when the camera actually, we're looking at Bullock, and then all of a sudden we're inside her helmet, and we're seeing what she sees. Like, to me, it was visionary genius. What do you guys think about Cuarón as a director? Hamilton, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think he has done some really, really amazing work visually. I'm not sure how his storytelling is. A lot of the stuff that he's done so far has been adaptations. I mean, he's known for, was it Prisoners of Azkaban was the Harry Potter he directed. Children of Men, I believe, was also a book. So I'm not sure how he is there, but once he has material, he knows what to do with it.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah, definitely. Jason, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think I mean these are fair points about the characters. Maybe it won't be up for the script Oscars. I mean, but in terms of directing, I mean, I think he's got to be in the conversation for the best director statue this year.
Yeah,
Definitely.
And if he does come through and win it, I mean, usually they don't give the Oscar to a first timer. Like when Mendez did it for American Beauty, it was kind of rare, but. Had been nominated a couple times now, so it seems like he's got the pedigree after Children of Men, that he's building up to it. So I could totally see him giving it to him. And if they do this time, that'll be, like I said earlier with Ang Lee, that would be back-to-back Best Director Oscars for 3D movies. Which would be, I think, kind of we're suddenly in a brave new world of filmmaking.
Right.
But yeah, just the shot you were talking about of where they jump inside Bullock's helmet. I want to go back and see the movie again just so I can watch and try to find the moment where it went inside because it seems so seamless when you're watching it the first time. So,
yeah.
I was hyperventilating for a good 90 minutes. I don't know if you noticed every now and then they'd show the characters, they'd hold up their stopwatches and set it to 90 just to remind us in case if you're freaking out too bad, it's only going to be for 90 minutes. So it's like a little, here's your little life raft here. But
right, but I thought that was also a genius of the script in terms of everybody knows like if you have an internal clock, this is kind of like that Hitchcock thing, internal clock within the film, and for this film. Every 90 minutes, we know we're going to get a barrage of bullets, shrapnel from the satellite that exploded. Right. So automatically you're rushing up against that time, and then you're also rushing up against trying to get oxygen and things like that. Again, I just thought when I first saw that there's going to be this film about gravity and space and all this stuff, I was like, how can you do this for 90 minutes? But to me, I never looked at my watch while I was watching it. And the greatest part about it is, as a collective, the audience that I saw it with, it was dead silent. It was like everyone was just so into the film. Now, of course, this is Picture Lock. I think it's an A+ film. But, if you guys don't think it's an A+, I'm sure you don't think it's a C. I could see maybe B or whatever. But Hamilton, you said you had some things you didn't like about the story. What were some of the things you didn't like?
Yeah, I just felt like the characters were a little bit generic for me, and some of the things that Sandra Bullock's character, Dr. Stone, went through, it just seemed to ramp up almost to where it was sort of ridiculous. I still gave it a 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
Like I said, on visuals alone, it deserves that. And it wasn't bad. I felt like if there was more given thought to some of those issues, it could have been a flawless film.
Yeah. So you think Bullock won't be mentioned this year as a Best Actress?
I'm not saying I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know.
Yeah. Not that I disagree with you. I mean, I think it's possible, but I think it might be shrouded under the guise of how magnificent the rest of the film is. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you couldn't have just put Mary Jane in there and it wouldn't have been as good. But what do you think, Jason? Do you think she was Oscar worthy or?
I don't know if she'll win because they just gave it to her for The Blind Side, and even which is funny because throughout the movie they keep saying we're talking into the blind. So I think of The Blind Side.
Houston in the blind.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But I totally hear what you're saying. But I gave it 4 out of 4. Just visually, it blew me away. And I think it's gonna be in the Best Picture race. To me, just to kind of what you were speaking to, there was a moment where it started to teeter a little on the edge for me, where we already gave the spoiler alert, and this is airing a couple weeks later, right?
Yeah.
But, where Clooney comes back. At that point, I was like, oh, please, did you just torpedo your own movie?
Right.
But then it turns out it was just kind of like her, almost don't go into the light moment where, she's just, hallucinating. So for that, to me, it walked right back enough off the edge for me to go with it. But just the way it was paced and all the way up to that final shot where we've survived space, but no, now we got to come out of the water and there's seaweed in the way, and just get to the shore already.
Right.
So I was on pins and needles for that. So and then obviously that final shot of crawling out of the water, almost like the origins of man or something, and gravity gets a new meaning there.
Right.
And to me, I thought we talk about 2001. To me, it's almost I kind of viewed it as like an inverse of 2001, where 2001 started with the dawn of man and then moved outwardly into the outer reaches of space. Whereas this, we start in space and the whole thing is trying to get back to Earth and moving more animalistically backwards towards the primal instincts, where Bullock is howling like a wolf to communicate with the Chinese astronauts.
Right.
So to me, that didn't click right as I was watching it, but driving home, I was like, that is Kubrick, the other side of the coin right there.
Right,
so I liked it.
Yeah,
I thought it was well done.
Definitely, and it. To me, it's just like we're talking about. It's just I held my breath until the very end. When she was underwater, I'm just like holding my breath myself. Like, come on, get out of there, get that suit off. Yeah, exactly. She finally gets up there, and then like grabbing the dirt, the mud. It's like you don't have to say everything. Sometimes you can just show it, and I think they definitely showed it. And then I just love how that little puddle that she creates, grabbing the mud, and then she stands up, and then if you see it in 3D. The water just splashes and it's on the camera. The frame is still dirty, but and then she gets the Michael Bay hero shot, the up angle as she goes. Right. Who knows where she goes? Who cares? But we survived this. Now it would be horrible if it was she steps out and gets shot or something like that. But she survived. I know my mind goes there. All right, gentlemen.
Different movie entirely.
I know. So, any final thoughts on Gravity?
No, I would recommend everyone to go see it. I mean, even whether you were kind of blown away like we were, or there's some story things like you said. I mean, I think regardless of your taste and how much slack you're willing to give with that, I think you'll be blown away visually.
Yeah,
so
definitely, yeah. And IMAX 3D to me would be the way to see it. That's how I saw it. I can't imagine seeing it any other way to do those visuals justice.
Yeah, don't wait for Redbox or Netflix.
No.
Yeah, it's definitely
a lot of time you can save money, but no, this I don't think it'll translate. You have to see it.
Maybe if you have your own private 3D theater, but
someday.
That's
right. I wish. All right. Well, let's take a break, and we'll be back with our top 5 least anticipated films of the fall for 2013.